What's up guys, Freddy Fishfinger here, and I'm bringing you a team builder video, or sort of team builder, because I'm not actually building the team, but more like a review. But anyway, you guys get the idea. So this team I've been using a lot recently, in a couple of episodes that I've uploaded for VGC and whatnot, so I thought I'd just give you guys a bit of a rundown on how the team actually works, because I've had a reasonable amount of success with it, and kind of learned as I kept going along when I was actually using the team. So I don't know, maybe give it a couple of goes before you decide whether you want to use it or don't like it or anything like that. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here regardless. So I'm going to start with how I initially began to build the team and then work down to how I finished it. So the first Pokemon, because I kind of do it on one-by-one basis, first Pokemon I chose was Tapu Fini because I had this idea that I'd like to use Metagross because of the fact that the Tapus kind of run wild, and Metagross does pretty well against most of the Tapus, so that led me back to, okay, well, how do I want to use Tapu Fini in the sense that Tapu Fini can prevent Metagross from getting burnt, which is the only way to lower Metagross's attack because of Clear Body. This set kind of came to me as an initial concept when Will-O-Wisp Arcanine was a lot more popular. That's since decreased, but it's still by no means a bad option for the team. So the team works specifically around Tapu Fini with a high investment in HP, a little bit investment in speed, and a good chunk of investment in special attack as well. That way Tapu Fini is able to KO something like Garchomp and then get a lot of damage off on things like Arcanine as well. It also offers something with Nature's Madness, whereby if it can't touch something, well, it can now. But you could also swap Nature's Madness out for things like Calm Mind, Haze, Grass Knot, Light Screen Reflect, Scald, and Taunt, depending on what you want to go with. Keep in mind, you are not going to burn anything with Scald if Misty Terrain is up, because I see a lot of people going for Scald on Tapu Fini. If Misty Terrain's up, it's not going to work. I know it's still a good move, okay, but I don't know. I prefer Muddy Water because it's able to hit both, which is kind of funny because I hate bad accuracy, but the fact that it was able to hit both is a lot more interesting. Obviously, Protect is always a good call. So yeah, that's the main reason why Tapu Fini was used, to make sure that Misty Terrain is up for things like Metagross and also a couple other Pokemon later, as you'll see, as well as annoying things like Garchomp and Arcanine. So the next Pokemon, unsurprisingly, is Metagross. Metagross, you've got Meteor Mash, you've got Zen Headbutt. If you're not using them, why are you not? But then the other two are more interesting moves. They're Protect and Magnet Rise. You're not likely to see Magnet Rise. Protect, obviously, you can throw on just about any Pokemon that isn't Choice Locked or Assault Vest. But the reason why I've opted for Magnet Rise is because you can basically wall Garchomp once you are off the ground with Metagross. So I had this idea with, okay, if I can make my opponent bring Garchomp and then Garchomp not able to do anything to Metagross, then it might create a bit of a panic around my opponent. The only problem with that is that Metagross is slower than Garchomp, so you have to invest in high speed so that you are able to outspeed Garchomp once Tailwind is up. That's the only thing. So there's a bit of a hint for what's next to come, Tailwind. Ooh. So yeah, that's why Magnet Rise is opted for. Obviously, if the opponent brings Arcanine, Metagross can't raise off the ground to avoid fire attacks, but the rest of the team is able to assist with that. So it's just a cool little tech, since Garchomp is basically the most used Pokemon, specifically in terms of a ground type as well. Nothing else even comes close to the usage Garchomp sees in the current metagame. So the other positive things about this Metagross set that I have here is the fact that Wide Lens boosts the accuracy of Meteor Mash and Zen Headbutt to 99%. And I know that might seem a little bit stupid, but I really hate missing Meteor Mash and Zen Headbutt, because I feel like the damage output that you have from those two moves is not justifiable to miss them. And also, I didn't really have another item that I really wanted to use on this Metagross set, so that's why I use it with the Wide Lens. This particular Metagross set can outspeed Tapu Koko in Tailwind, which is really cool. Clear Body prevents it from being intimidated, we went over that. This set can KO Tapu Lele with a Meteor Mash, plus, and then it can 2-hit KO Tapu Koko and Tapu Bulu with Meteor Mash. And in addition, the reason why we've got that little bit of extra HP and not attack is so that we can live a Thunderbolt from Tapu Koko that is Life Orb boosted if we are at 100%, and I thought that wasn't too bad of a justification. If you don't want to go for this set for Metagross, you can always swap in Brick Break, Earthquake, Rock Slide, Explosion, Bullet Punch, and Hammer Arm. They're all viable moves, and you can always opt for Assault Vest, Choice Band, Weakness Policy, Steelium Z, Life Orb, Citrus Berry, Choice Scarf. If you find another item, by all means, but those are the ones that make the most sense to me, so that's why I've kind of listed all of them. Next up, Aerodactyl. Okay, you'd think this would be pretty obvious, but actually no, and there's a good reason for this. I've developed an Aerodactyl set which maxes out speed, because if you're not maxing out speed on Aerodactyl, you are doing it wrong, because it would at best speed tie with Tapu Koko if both of them are max speed, and Tapu Koko doesn't always run max speed, but it can, so you're not doing yourself any favors if you're not outspeeding Tapu Koko. Obviously, this particular set, Tailwind and Taunt and Protect, just makes sense. Protect is really good because Fake Out can be Aerodactyl's worst nightmare because, yes, it is frail. Rock Slide because Stab, and it's up there amongst the best moves in VGC, so there's really no reason not to use it. In addition, it does offer chances to flinch, so there's just really no downside to it, other than, oh, okay, its accuracy is not the best in the world, but you kind of let that go because of how good it actually is. Now, as for the EVs, you're probably sitting back going, what the hell, this doesn't make any sense. This EV spread allows you to live a Blizzard from Ninetales and hail damage. Now that's important because obviously the Focus Sash is there so that Aerodactyl doesn't die in one hit, but going down to hail damage kind of doesn't entirely render the Focus Sash useless, but it means that you're able to opt for a Taunt on turn 1 on the Ninetales if you predict Aurora Veil, and if you predict wrong and the Ninetales decides to go for Blizzard straight away, then you will live the Blizzard and the hail damage, and you can get a Tailwind up on the second turn. If you predict right with the Taunt, then it's totally fine and you've made the right call anyway, so. But it does allow for a margin of error, so I thought that made a lot more sense. Also, while you want to get as much attack out of Aerodactyl as possible because you don't have a lot of health options, this particular set allows you to live one which does come across as important and yet still offer a lot of damage, and the damage output change is really not that much to be worried about anyway. So next up we have Clefable. Now this is where the team starts getting a little bit more interesting. Clefable is not really used in VGC, and there are reasonably good reasons. It's not the best fairy type in the meta either. Also the fact that I have 2 fairy types in the team kind of questions it a little bit, but I figured because of Magic Guard, Clefable has an amazing move pool. What about if we can abuse that and really punish the opponents from bringing in things which are really common and they think that they have things good against Clefable, when really we can throw Moonblast on there because Moonblast is just good, Flamethrower for things like Kartana, Protect because, you know, targeting and, you know, have at you. And then the last one is kind of a toss-up between Thunderbolt and Grass Knot, and I mean, sure, you can opt for things like Follow Me as well, but this set was more designed to punish and attack rather than to create diversions. So that's why I've also got the modest nature there, and I know I invest high in defense, but I'll go over the reasons for the set specifically in a bit. Grass Knot is more for things like Gastrodon, whereas Thunderbolt is more for Tapu Fini and Milotic, and I feel like those two are being used more commonly at the moment than Grass Knot is. Now I know Grass Knot can hit all 3 of them, but Thunderbolt offers you more damage off on Milotic and Tapu Fini than Grass Knot does, so I figured we'd probably go more along that line. But yeah, still feel free to swap that up because I wasn't sure exactly which way to lean either. I tend to lean Thunderbolt, but you take your pick. Also, worth keeping in mind is that Gastrodon doesn't particularly like Moonblast, so while you won't kill it, you are going to whittle it down pretty hard anyway. So it's not like you don't have any options either. Okay, so the set specifically, it's supposed to be a bit more of a utility damage output with the Life Orb. The bonus being Magic Guard means you don't take any recoil from that, which is awesome. The high investment in defense and HP means that you can live a poison jab from a Alolan Muk. Be careful because on the next turn you are likely to be Shadow Sneaked, but you can live a poison jab from a Alolan Muk, which is cool. You can live a Smart Strike from Kartana, assuming that it does not have any item to increase its attack, and you will KO on return with a Flamethrower. So it's really nice in that respect. Next up, you can live a Tectonic Rage from a Garchomp and KO in return with Moonblast. So these are the things which are really interesting. You're going to take a lot of damage, but you get that key win of one of your opponent's Pokemon, which they think would be safe. This set can outspeed Gengar in Tailwind, although Gengar is not super common. It does give you a couple other things which are a bit slower than Gengar, which you do outspeed. So there's pluses there. Like Garchomp, for example, you will outspeed Garchomp. Who's next? I've already mentioned the last minute change between Thunderbolt and Grass Knot, so I mean that's metagame preference, take your pick. And the important thing to note with this set, which I wish didn't happen, but it does, you are slower than Tapu Koko even once you're in Tailwind. So just something to keep in mind. The set's not perfect, I wish it was, but we can only get it so good because Clefable is on the slower end of Pokemon. So what can you do? Next up, Gyarados, which is kind of interesting that I've gone for something with 4 times weakness, but Gyarados is really nice because of Intimidate and Dragon Dance, so there is that, which I find really cool. Then you've got Waterfall, because Stab, awesome. Earthquake is an interesting choice, which you don't have to opt for. It does work really well next to Aerodactyl, that Earthquake, but the other reason was if you want to get rid of electric types, which are going to be a problem, you do have Earthquake, which is really cool. Keep in mind, something really cool about Gyarados is that you can run Flamethrower to KO a Kartana. You will not KO it if it's holding an Ockerberry or an Assault Vest, but it is something which you can run, which would be really cool to throw around, although I don't tend to opt for it. I do run an Adrenal Orb. Oh god, I can't speak now. An Adrenaline Orb on this set, which might be a little bit confusing, but that Adrenaline Orb allows you to outspeed the opposing Arcanines if they come in with Intimidate, because they're typically the most common Intimidators, and whereby it's not an Arcanine, you'll outspeed their Gyarados, because I'm not aware of any other commonly used Intimidators in the metagame. So it's something really cool to be able to have, particularly since I wasn't sure what item to run. If in doubt, you could also go for a Lumberry or a Citrus Berry, but I figured that the Adrenaline Orb would be something that'd be cool to give a go, because you do get the added benefit of, if you do get your attack lowered, you will outspeed, but if you don't get your attack lowered, then all your stats are normal. So it's kind of like, if everything starts going downhill, at least we get that little bonus, if that makes sense. The reasons for this particular spread, obviously this is the Intimidator, so we don't need to make it super defensive, but we do want to make it a little bit defensive, and I'll run over that in a bit. The speed that I've got here allows you to outspeed a neutral speed Pheromosa when you have got one Dragon Dance up or the Adrenaline Orb has gone off. Now I know that I have an example in some of my previous videos where that didn't happen. Turns out that my set was slightly off, so I'd had to tweak it a little bit, but it is now, so feel free to run with this set and you will outspeed neutral speed Pheromosas at +1, because people really shouldn't be opting for max speed Pheromosa, because it will be able to outspeed the other stuff that you see in the metagame regardless. So this should be able to give you the win in that regard. This set does outspeed Metagross, which is really nice to have, so that means that you can tell if your opponent's running a Choice Scarf Metagross or not, depending on whether they outspeed you. You will live a Adamant Arcanine's Wild Charge after you have intimidated it, which is really cool to have if your opponent thinks that they're going to get the win off there. Keep in mind, Arcanine has extreme speed, but it's really cool anyway, because especially with Protect as well. That's part of the reason why Protect is used. When you know something's going to happen, it just gives you that extra little barrier. Next thing, this set does live 2 Rock Slides from an Intimidated Garchomp, so you really see how Intimidate can be used very effectively with a Gyarados set. It does take a lot of tweaking and playing around with the EVs that you're going to run, but it does offer some really cool stuff. The next thing that you have is that you supply power and threaten to boost with Dragon Dance, even if you come out against things that are not going to be annoyed by your Intimidate. So that does also offer an additional thing. That's part of the reason why Arcanine is also really good, whereby Intimidate is not necessarily going to win you the game. Arcanine can still offer a lot of damage. So Gyarados can do the same in that regard. Okay, next up is that you freely swap into a Garchomp Earthquake and you get an Intimidate off when doing so. So it's just really cool additional features to have, whereas Arcanine can't do that. I've already spoken about the Adrenaline Orb, which is really cool, and then the last thing to mention here is that Waterfall, while being Gyarados' best stab, or second best stab, also gives you a potential chance to flinch, so it's just a little added bonus. Now the last Pokemon, surprise surprise, Garchomp. Now the reason for this is I kind of threw around a couple other ideas. Initially the team had an Alolan Marowak because of Lightning Rod, and that paired really well with Gyarados. The problem is I am yet to have an Alolan Marowak set which I've had a lot of success with. I tend to find that it comes in, it can be a little bit threatening, but I never really get it to not so much win me a game, but really draw me closer to that victory. Whereas with Garchomp, it can come in freely on an electric type attack, which you can kind of expect when Gyarados is out. Also, if a discharge is going to be used, you can always protect Gyarados, bring Garchomp in, and you're pretty free like that. So it's just cool. Rough Skin, because I'm not running any sand, and while you can see a sand team, it's typically not used in this VGC meta. You do see Gigaliths around, and they might throw sand, but sand teams specifically, not so much. Now, true, you could get the benefit off of a Gigalith bringing up the sand with Sand Veil, but all in all, Rough Skin is just all round better because it's more likely to come into play. The EVs, really standard stuff, max attack, max speed, and that little bit extra. Throw it wherever you want. I've done so in special defense. Jolly Nature for max speed because you do not want to lose to another Garchomp. That would suck. So at least give yourself the chance to cause a speed tie. Also, if we do get the Tailwind up, we can guarantee that we'll outspeed. But I mean, look, if you really wanted to play around, you could probably invest a little bit of its speed and HP and then do that. But this just makes more sense because you are not then reliant on Tailwind with Garchomp because we already have Clefable, which again, not reliant, but really appreciates it. And then we have a couple other things which really appreciate it as well. So this is just nicer to have. The set, Protect, Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Flamethrower. Flamethrower was chosen because it's just slightly better than Fire Fang against Kartana, although Fire Fang is better for Celesteela. I figured that I can forego that in order to kill Kartana because Kartana can cause massive problems to my team, whereas Celesteela is more just a bit of a nuisance. If you don't like Flamethrower for the Garchomp set, depending on what you're doing, you can always run Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Fire Fang, Iron Head, or Draco Meteor. All are reasonably good options. And the item choice, Groundium Z, because Tectonic Rage is just the best. So yeah, I mean, you could do other stuff, but to me, that's what the best option was. So guys, that's the team. Feel free to give it a go. I've had a lot of fun with it. Leave likes if you did enjoy. I'll probably do some more team builder videos as well, or stuff similar to this anyway, for some of the other teams. So yeah, and then we might start up some VGC again because I think it's a week break. So it's okay, but we'll start up some more. All right, as I said, leave likes if you enjoyed because likes are awesome. Freddy Fishfinger,